Up next, Ted Butler with his speech. Champions come in all shapes and sizes. Champions come in all shapes and sizes. Ted Butler.
Champions come in all shapes and sizes. This last Super Bowl Sunday was an exceptional day. But for me, it started off like most of my Sundays do during the wintertime by teaching skiing up at our local mountain, Mission Ridge. In February just happens to be my favorite month up on the mountain, not only because it's when we have just tremendous snow up there, but it's also when we have what we call consecutive week lessons. And for a ski instructor, consecutive week lessons means that we get to teach the same group of students, usually ages 5 to 15, for 5 consecutive weeks. And we get to know one another. I get to share with them quite a bit about the fantastic mountain that we're enjoying. And they in turn get to share with me a bit about their journey. Champions come in all shapes and sizes. And so that morning I found myself riding up the chairlift with one of my students. We'll call him Brandon. Brandon had told me that he didn't ski last year, that this was his first time back after taking a break. Now, you have to imagine that riding the chairlift for some of these kids was just like a trip to Disneyland. And because of that, we'd enter into very deep conversations about important topics such as, what's your favorite kind of pizza? Or your favorite flavor of ice cream? What's your teacher's name? Your pets? What chapter books you're reading? You might realize that we're trying to do everything we can to keep them from thinking about the fact that we're suspended 100 feet in the air from a thin wire cable. Champions come in all shapes and sizes. And so on this ride up that morning, it was a different Sunday. It was Super Bowl Sunday. And we had fans all over the mountain wearing all sorts of Seahawks gear. We had people in helmets and in jerseys. People had Seahawks scarves on, even 12th man flags. And our students were no exception. I noticed that Brandon appeared to be wearing what looked to be a Seahawks jersey underneath his jacket, the blue and gray, visible below his tiny white chin. "Is that a Hawks jersey you have on, Brandon?" I asked. "Yep," was his answer, his eyes turning toward me, sparkling even through the goggles covering his tiny glasses. "Cool," I said. "So who's your favorite player?" "Russell Wilson," was his immediate reply. "He gave me this jersey." Champions come in all shapes and sizes. "Really?" I said. "That's pretty neat. And when did he do that?" In my mind, I'm thinking probably at a dinner or an auction, someplace where I might meet somebody like Russell Wilson. Brandon turned his head back down, his eyes no longer so cheery. "At the hospital, when I was sick." Now, I'll be the first one to admit that I tend to be the fellow that's that half-glass kind of full type of individual. I tend to look over the negatives and focus on the positives. Maybe that's why I wasn't quite ready for what was about to happen. "Oh, I'm sorry, Brandon," I stammered. What were you in for?" Sounding more like I was talking to an inmate than an 8-year-old child. His little helmet sunk a bit lower on his shoulders, and barely audibly he said, "Leukemia. But I'm better now. Better." Leukemia can be a devastating disease, even for the strongest. For the body of an 8-year-old child, I can scarcely imagine. Champions come in all shapes and sizes. "Oh, Brandon," I said, "I'm so sorry to hear." But I got to share with him a bit about my own father's battle and victory over leukemia. And tell Brandon about how incredible life was for my dad in remission. "I guess that makes you a bit of a champion now too, doesn't it, Brandon?" "I guess," he said. He told me that Russell Wilson had come to visit him in the hospital. He said, "We talked, and he gave me this jersey. It's my lucky jersey," he said. By this time, we had reached the top of the mountain, and it was time for us to get off the chairlift. As we skied over to our group of students, I could see that for at least one of those in my care, they seemed to be standing just a little bit taller that morning in their lucky jersey. That afternoon, we witnessed a truly incredible football game. We got to watch our quarterback, Russell Wilson, display the type of character that can't be taught. The type of character that is forged not only on the field, but off the field as well. Champions do come in all shapes and sizes, and they have names. They have names like Russell and Brandon.